Now, do you consider yourself to have built enough capacity for your life or for the kind of success that you want? Now, that is the question that we have today, because I've brought you someone who will dissect this topic for us, the so-called building capacity in all aspects of life. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Inspiration Hub, where we get deep insight in all aspects of life. And today I have a very profound guy, an author, and also a very powerful corporate trainer and a transformational speaker, Mr. Radido. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much thank you so much for allowing me to invite you to the Inspiration Hub.
Yes.
And I really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Please let them know who Mr. Radido is as we begin.
Well, thank you so very much. I'm glad to be here joining all the audiences in the Inspirational Hub. And before I introduce myself, I must commend you for the good work you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Our lives are being challenged and impacted by your work. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
As has been said, my name is Dooso Radido. I am an author, a thought leader, a corporate trainer, transformational speaker, and a business person. I run a publishing firm. And by the grace of God, I have been able to get to understand a few things on the subject of capacity, and I have done a book on that matter, and I call the book Why Capacity Matters.
Exactly.
And in it I try to share insights and principles and even strategies and ways of how somebody should be able to pull this either for their own personal development or for their any entities they are running, either a business, a ministry, a family, and anything. Because in my opinion, I think capacity really matters, and it is the platform on which we do everything that we are trying to do.
Mr. Radido, because we are talking about capacity, I'd like to ask you a very sensitive question.
Yes.
All this that you do, and of course we know very well there's no school where they train speakers. How did you discover, how did you construct this bearing?
Yes.
Yes. How did it all start?
Well, my life has had many learning moments. And I like the fact that you've mentioned school, because school is one of those environments where we go to build capacity.
Yes.
But that is not the only place where we can build capacity. Intelligent people are building capacity in nearly any environment they find themselves in. All you need to have is the right mental capacity to be able to see things and process things the right way.
Yes.
So the story of my life has been, I would call certain moments of learning that happened. You run into a situation that calls for your response, and because of that you have to do a little bit of an adjustment, or you're pushed sometimes by painful experiences or pleasurable experiences, and you find yourself making adjustments or building certain skills, either as a way of surviving or as a way of advancing. You know?
I like it when you say the way of surviving, because I really connect.
Yes.
I really associate with that.
Yes.
Okay, so it has been circumstantial, one thing leading into the other.
Yes.
There is a definition of success that I don't know who came up with it, but it's very popular. That success is when opportunity meets
preparedness. That is Oprah Winfrey.
That is Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
Oh, profound.
Yes.
So it's when opportunity meets preparedness.
Yes.
So you can meet opportunity, but you're not prepared.
That's right.
You can never be successful.
That's right. Actually, preparedness in itself is actually the processes that go into building certain capabilities, certain abilities, or certain systems that are capable of helping someone to either construct an opportunity or take advantage of an opportunity or maximize on what is already in their sphere of influence.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is what preparedness is all about. So a lot of it is what we call capacity building processes. So when you have built capacity, for example, before you came here, you made sure that at least you knew how to do an interview, or you knew how to talk. Then you settled on the language you will use. The language you are using today is a product of capacity building.
Exactly.
You remember there is a time you didn't know a lot of English.
Yes.
So they used the language you knew to teach you a new language. Exactly. And now they have elevated you to a completely new language.
Yes.
Now you can communicate in English. So the experience you're having now is an English experience. If we knew Chinese, we would probably do this interview in Chinese.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is a very profound aspect. But you have talked about capacity building processes.
Yes.
Which I would request that you take us through, if you don't mind.
Okay. The primary and traditional approach to capacity building, which I think most of us know, is the process of schooling.
Yes.
So when you're taken to a school, they have a structured method of inducing, building, and strengthening capabilities.
Yes.
And a school is a good environment because sometimes it targets more than one capacity area.
Yes, yes.
So a school, or being schooled, or being educated formally, is one of those processes that somebody can use to build themselves from being a complete novice, or somebody who knows nothing about a particular skill or a particular discipline, and be lifted to a place where you are an expert through that structured schooling system.
Yes, yes.
Then there is the unstructured schooling system, where you are being mentored, not necessarily through a school or a curriculum-based kind of program, but you're just being mentored by somebody who knows what you do not know. You see, if somebody knows how to drive, they can show you how to drive without necessarily taking you to a driving school.
Exactly.
That is the unstructured one.
Yes.
And then there is, in the category of unstructured capacity building processes, is where we find other methods like on-job training, or finding yourself in a situation that demands for a response, and therefore life forces you to know how to do something. And I like using the example of what happens when you have a sudden attack by a wild animal like a lion. Most of us would respond by running.
Yes.
Naturally, you don't run, but when the lion shows up, you realize that the situation demands that you run.
Yes.
So that from that moment, you can discover that you're actually a runner.
Definitely. You discover that you've been sleeping on your athletic talent.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and lastly, there is what I call exposing yourself to strategic pressure. Exposing yourself to strategic pressure is a process whereby you take yourself to places where it will be demanded of you to do something. For example, if we take you to Germany today, and you stay there, and there is nobody who speaks the language you speak. After a while, you'll realize that you're beginning to learn German, so that the demand of the fact that you need to communicate in an environment where it requires a language that you do not have will actually force you to know German. So one of the ways of knowing a language is taking yourself to an environment where there is no other alternative language. You'll be forced to know it. So that's what I call exposing yourself to strategic pressure. So people who are teaching themselves would expose themselves to uncomfortable zones, pull themselves out of comfort zones, and take themselves to a situation where life is bombarding on them until they make the necessary adjustments, because we all have that natural capability to do adjustments and to build new skills, new capabilities, and new disciplines. Yep.
Profound. I'm going to ask you various aspects that a number of people have asked me. Sometimes I go live on my YouTube channel, and I talk to a few people here and there. And there is this question that many people have asked to me.
Yes.
That Ezekiel just got a new job.
Yes.
And this is a new job, and it's a higher ranking. How do I go about it?
Yes.
Now, this is in line with capacity. This is someone who has already gotten the job and is wondering, how will I start?
Yes.
Because my previous one did not have the kind of demands that this one is having. How would you advise such kind of a person?
Well, that's a very good question.
Yes.
There are two ways to approach this.
Yes.
There is a way you can send yourself to a higher job.
Yes.
By beginning to build the necessary capacities that are needed there.
Yes.
And there is a way you can adjust when you land there.
All right.
You see, you can adjust.
Yes.
So there is one that is proactive, and there is another one that is reactive.
Yes.
So the proactive one is where you are sending yourself to that position by building necessary competencies and capacities that can help you to operate there. And then there is the reactive one where you wait until you find yourself there so that you begin to make adjustments. The reactive one is a little painful and sometimes may stretch you or cause have you do a little bit of either distraction to the things that you're working on until the day you will master your skill or something.
Yes.
As I say this, I want people to understand what we mean by capacity. Capacity basically means the disciplines, the abilities, and the capabilities that you have built within yourself that makes you or gives you the power to be able to function or be productive on a given level. So once you have attained the ability to function in that level or to be productive in that level, we consider you to have built capacity to be there. So if you want to know whether you have capacity for something or not.
I wanted to ask you that.
Yes, if you want to know whether you have it or you don't have it.
Exactly, yes.
See whether you're able to function in a space where that capacity is needed or are able to produce results in that space. So it's about functionality and productivity.
Yes,
so those two words should be in the mind of anybody if they want to know whether they can do something or not. So if, for example, a language, can you function in an environment where that language is going on? Can you produce results like the people who know it in that kind of an environment?
Yes.
So a person who gets that kind of an opportunity, I would advise, if it happens to you when you do not have capacity yet, you have the responsibility of doing what we call capacity adjustment, meaning identify the critical capacities, skills or disciplines that are needed for functionality and productivity in that area and begin to learn them and hopefully master them as fast as you can, because a new job role is a new job role if you can be able to function and produce results there. Otherwise, if you just go in there and take a title and you're not producing results, we do not consider you to be competent or to have the capacity that is needed for that space.
I did a video, and thank you so much for shedding light on that.
Yes.
And I gave an analogy of a bee and a housefly.
Yes.
You realize that a housefly is very harmless physically, while a bee can really give you some little discipline.
It can sting, yes.
It can sting you very well.
Yes.
And that little sting can provoke you to, in fact, you can even see a whole man crying physically because of that. Now,
Very true.
You realize that as harmless as a housefly is, if you see it around, we hate it because it's a symbol of lack of hygiene.
Yes.
But people buy beehives to keep bees because of what they produce.
Yes.
Which is
the honey.
Which is the honey. So you realize that it is not enough to be nice. What makes you be appreciated in any environment is productivity.
That's right.
I've gotten that.
That's right.
Now, people asked me a question that I've not answered yet, and I think you are the best person to answer this question. How then do I make myself productive in the environment so that I can be appreciated? How can I develop the capacity so that I can be appreciated anywhere I am?
Yes.
So how then do I develop this capacity? Yes, you've told me I need to develop capacity, and I will encourage people to read this book on capacity, which of course you're going to tell us how we can get it.
Yes.
How then do I develop capacity? And of course, we have different angles. Someone is maybe running a business somewhere, and the business is growing, so he's wondering, how will I face the next level?
Yes.
And someone probably is in the area of talent, and the talent is growing. Then how do I develop my capacity and the rest? So how would you approach that, sir?
Well, I like the fact that you're talking about the crave that people have for being appreciated.
Exactly. Yes.
I call that value.
Yes.
I call that value.
Value.
And when it comes to capacity, the capacities you've built determine how they determine your worth. They determine how valuable you are. If we all were taken to a supermarket and they placed us on shelves and they began to do price tags on each one of us, each one of us would go for a particular price.
Yes.
There are some that are worth 50 bob, others are worth 1,000, others are worth millions. And if you want to know that this is true, see how people who have the same anatomical features are generating different kinds of value. Even if you used money, people are making different amounts of money. There's somebody who in one day can make 1 million. Another person in a day can make 10 million. Another person in the same day can make 100 million. Yet another person in the same day can make only 100 shillings or 300 shillings. So we are all commanding a given amount of worth. And this is determined by our productivity, which is a product of our capacities. You see, there are people who, when they come into your business and they provide one solution that they have generated from their thinking, your business is able to be elevated from this level to that level, just because of their thinking capacity, you see. So we are as valuable as the competencies and the capacities that we have built. Number two, the capacities and competencies we have built actually are differentiating us. I'm different from you because of what I am capable of doing.
Exactly.
So the things you cannot do, you will hire me to do them for you. Otherwise, you will get stuck.
Exactly.
So the people who are conscious about the power of capacity are constantly polishing themselves and repackaging themselves as a way of differentiating themselves. So that as you look at the grading, there are people who you cannot just afford. Not that they have 3 heads and 16 legs.
And probably they're using blood while you are using tomato sauce.
It is just the same anatomical makeup, but their differentiation is so high. When they open their mouth to speak, you feel like there's value coming out of this person. But there are some other people, when they open their mouth, you just feel like running away, you see.
Because they're speaking garbage.
Yes, yes. So it is coming from the competencies that people have built. So this is what I advise people. Once you've identified where you want to go, whether in business or in your personal life, in your career life, or in your family life, or whatever kind of a thing you're doing, the next thing you must do is to identify the capacities, the capabilities, the skills, the disciplines, and the systems that will be needed to be able to operate in that environment. Let me use a simple example.
Give me an example.
You want to be a footballer. You want to be a footballer. The moment you say, I want to be a footballer, we already know that you need certain skills to be able to function there. Number one, you should be able to run.
Yes.
You should be able to dribble. You should be able to coordinate how you are playing as an individual and how you're playing together with other team members, and be able to see opportunities on a football pitch to be able to score or make your team win, you see. So when somebody else says, I want to be a lawyer, for example, what we need them to know how to do is to think very well, to research very well, to communicate very well, and hopefully to do what we call emotional management, because being a lawyer has a lot of emotional experiences, and if you lose your mind, if you lose yourself because of an emotional hijack, then you cannot be an effective lawyer. So just look at how different saying I want to be a footballer causes you to think about a completely different set of skills as compared to somebody else who says, I want to be a lawyer. So everybody must be able to know where I am going. These are the skill sets that will be needed. And the most important thing is we are aiming at functionality and productivity. You may not be doing this to compete with somebody else, because if you're aiming to compete, but you can't be functional and productive where you're going, then there is no value in the capacities you're building. So everybody should think about a set of skills, attitudes, disciplines, and systems they should build for themselves that should help them to be maximally functional and maximally productive where they want to go. This principle applies to organizations as well. If you want your organization to be a global organization, then you must ask yourself, what competencies and systems and structures and culture do global organizations use to be able to be that? And then begin to build that within your organization. And then in a short while, you will just become a global organization.